Last year was the first year of the festival, and I think we had a great community response. We saw over 600 people, I believe, showed up over the three-day period, and it was just a phenomenal success. It wasn't it was more than we had anticipated. You never know, first time you have a festival out the gate, you know, how many people are going to support it, who's going to show up. So to see the community support that we did was just great. And the community embraced it, and it appears this year there's an appetite or just a flavor for more film in Arlington, more independent film, and so that's exciting. And that's exciting to be able to be in a position to support independent filmmakers such as George and the others that are out there that do phenomenal work. And we want their work to be seen, we want it to be shown, and we want to create an audience for it. And above all, we just want to recognize some of the great talent that exists in the Arlington community as it relates to independent film. There are a lot of great independent filmmakers there, and you know, you don't have to go to Dallas, you don't have to go to Fort Worth to see great independent film. We have it right in Arlington, and so we want to spotlight that. We want to highlight it, we want to celebrate it, and we want to bring attention to the great film work and filmmakers that are there.
So, what is your theme this year for the film festival?
Well, I don't know that we necessarily have a theme, if you will. Our theme, I think, every year is inspiring community activism. We want people to come to the festival and walk away inspired to want to do more and make a difference in the community. One of the things that I said last year was that film, like music, has the unique ability to bring people together from all colors, backgrounds, because people come together, and it's not you don't see the division that you sometimes see in society. And I think film is just a wonderful medium that does that. And that was something that I really wanted to create for the city, a way to bring people together so that we can, you know, get away from some of this nonsense that we see, so much divisive and divisiveness in the community. And for one weekend, one night, one day, 1 hour, you know, people come together and they see film and they support it. And when you look around at the audience, you scan the audience and you see the diversity in the audience there. I mean, it's just a good feeling, a great thing. And it's all about supporting the independent film and the independent filmmakers. And so that's what I want to do, because it's not about me. I'm just trying to create a forum for these guys to have an opportunity to express and people to see their work.
So where did you start your process this year? Did you open up for submissions? Did you go to other film festivals? So kind of walk us through your thought process and how you picked the films and where you picked the films and what surprised you and what did not surprise you.
Yeah, I did a little bit of getting out, if you will. I went down to Austin community and connected with a few people down there. Yaki Smith, who is a filmmaker, was in Arlington for a long time, and now he's recently moved to Austin. He and I are good friends, Bart Weiss, and others in the Dallas-Fort Worth area who are involved in film. I connected with them and tried to network with them, and they really opened some doors for me in terms of connecting me with other people, other filmmakers and other films. And so that was a good thing. I think in terms of surprises it seemed that in a good way, the film festival seemed to catch on a little bit, if you will. We got twice the submissions that we got last year. And so that was surprising, but at the same time a good thing. And then so the number of submissions were more, and then we have a lot more international filmmakers that submitted to the festival, which was a surprise as well. And so I think the quality of films that we see are better than last year. The number of international films went up. We have a more diverse collection of films, and so it's just a reason to be excited for what we are trying to create, the synergy around the film community that exists in the Arlington area. And I get calls from filmmakers periodically that are looking for a festival. You know, you ask, how do we get our submissions? We went through Film Freeway, and that was the bulk of the submissions, but there were people who reached out to me independently that were shopping festivals and shopping a place to land their film, and so we were able to accommodate them as well. So I'm just encouraged that people recognize us, and I don't know if we're necessarily a real player in the film festival market yet. I don't want to go that far, but people do recognize that we provide a place, a forum for independent film, and we celebrate that with what we do with our festival.
Did you go to other film festivals and try to get films that you saw there that you wanted to bring to the Arlington community?
Absolutely. I went down to Austin and made connection with some of the individuals down there. James Christopher with the Revolution Film Festival. I've met quite a few filmmakers down there and talked to them, and as a result of attending that festival, we did get submissions from some of those individuals. I talked to the folks with the Lone Star Film Festival, and they're actually interested in a partnership with us. We hadn't worked out all the details with that yet, but they're interested in a partnership, and we want to explore those opportunities. I think we have similar thoughts of trying to lift up the film community and just really cultivate it and help people to embrace or understand who's here, because a lot of times, people think Los Angeles, they think New York, they think Austin, Texas when they think of film. They don't think Arlington, and we want them to think Arlington when they think of film, because there are a lot of filmmakers, great filmmakers, who are doing a lot of good things in New York, in Los Angeles, and in those places that have roots right here in Arlington, Texas.
When you're doing your selection process, is there anything you steer away from with films, or is it pretty much open to any kind of film?
It's really, we don't want films that are too provocative, and we've gotten some of those. We're not the adult film festival, and so we kind of try to steer away from them and try to make our festival a more family-friendly atmosphere.
Sure.
But pretty much, it's open. We're open to innovative ideas, and I like seeing the different types of films that come in. And sometimes we'll get out there on the edge just a little bit with some of the projects that they submit. But that's the fun and the beauty of it, because I think people don't want to see the same old thing. They don't want the cookie cutter film that comes through. And so with independent film, you're able to get in there and explore and push the edges and push the boundaries a little bit with what people see. And so if we have a little of that in the festival, I think that's exciting. I think people come to see a little something different, not the same kind of thing.
In the vein of Marcus's question, would you have shown Wolf by Yaki Smith in your film fest? Have you seen Wolf?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It touches on a topic that I think was at that time and still is very relevant.
Oh, extremely relevant.
Yeah, in the community. And so, we don't want to shy away from those kind of conversations and those kind of issues. I mean, because those are real issues that need conversation and discussion, because that's real stuff. Yeah. And so, absolutely, that type of film would absolutely be welcome in a festival. I think what we would try to stay away from, if we had films that were alt-right, alt-left, things of that nature that are divisive.
Tommy Lauren, don't submit.
Yeah. We're not trying to make a political statement, and we're not really, we're not trying to go either way, left or right, or anything like that. This is about the celebration of film and telling stories. Because oftentimes those stories would not be told if it were not for people like George or the other people who submit films. And so bringing those stories to life so that people can see those stories that wouldn't be told otherwise. I mean, that's the great thing about film, and what they do in the visual world is bring those stories to life and make them real so that people can see it and feel it and get a flavor for it, and it just gives it a whole new meaning than reading it on the book and reading it on a paper. It just brings that whole thing to life, and so that's the kind of thing that we try to push and celebrate with the festival.
One of the many things I admire about you is, you had a celebrated career with the Arlington Police Department. You're an assistant chief when you retired, and a lot of times when someone retires from the police department or from their job, they just want to get away. They want to leave the city. They want to go on their own. But you have done something very different. You have shown your love and your compassion for the citizens of Arlington and the Mid-Cities area. it's been a year since we talked to you, and could you tell us some of the comments some of the conversations you've had since your last film festival? Because it's, like I said, it's very unusual for someone who's retired in the police department who wants to come back and really give themselves to the community like you have. And I think it's great. Not a lot of people do it, but could you talk about the partnerships and the conversations you've had with city officials and people you've known professionally and personally, and then talk about the great relationship you have with George. George is a celebrated filmmaker. He's a longtime Arlington resident. He's very, he's on your crew helping you a lot.
Yeah, I guess when you ask that question, first of all, I love the city of Arlington, Texas. And I worked at the city of Arlington for 29 years, and having a relationship with the people who work in the city, people who own businesses in the city, it only seemed like the right thing to do, for me anyway, to try to create something that I hope would live past me. Something that, again, would bring people together and get us away from some of the divisive conversations that sometimes seem to exist. And so the idea, the creation, the thought process was to create something that, for me anyway, is it's not much, but it's what I can do as an individual to create something that is going to bring people together and hopefully live past me. Hopefully someday somebody will pick up the torch that I just lit here, and they'll take this festival and they'll do something even greater beyond whatever I could do or whatever I have the resources to do. But it all started with just one person thinking they wanted to do something to help their community, and a lot of times we think as individuals that how can I have an impact? I really can't do much. Well, you really can. It's just about making the effort, as small as it might seem, and how that impact kind of ripples out sometimes to beyond what you could ever imagine. And there are times when I hear stories, like I heard a story from George the other day about what having a film festival like this means to him for the city, and I'll let George speak on that. But that's not, it's great, and that's the reason that I created it. But when you're in the minutia of doing it every day, you kind of lose sight of the fact that you may be having an impact like that. And there are probably impacts with this festival that I'll never know, never hear about, and that's fine. It's the fact that we made the impact, the fact that we have created something here for the independent filmmakers. I think that's, for me anyway, that's what it's all about. And for it to continue long after I'm gone, and maybe Hollywood comes to Arlington one day, and somebody said, well, how did we get all of this started? Yeah, it was that crazy cop from Arlington, that thought he could do something in film, And I'm not a filmmaker, never been a filmmaker. I play around with film on my iPhone, but that's just not what I do, But what I am about is creating a forum, just a place to recognize what these guys do, because that's what this is all about. It's about the George Wadas and the Yaki Smiths and all those other people who create independent film that just tell dynamic stories that would not be seen, heard, or told in any other way. And so it's about celebrating these individuals. And maybe they don't ever get a Hollywood script. Maybe they don't ever do any of that other stuff, but some of the work that they do is just as good or better than anything that you'll ever see on a Hollywood screen. And so people should have an appreciation for that. They should want to come and see our festival, because they'll see those types of films and they'll meet these individuals, and maybe they'll be inspired. Maybe they'll be inspired to pursue their dream just by coming and talking to a George Wada and listening to his story and just hearing how he has himself retired from a career, and taking up film as a passion of his. And so I think the more that I can do those kind of things, then that's what this is all about.
George, as a longtime Arlington resident, you're very involved in the community on many different levels, and you're a filmmaker. Kind of talk about what it means to you as a citizen, but also too as a filmmaker living within the city, to have this film festival now, this support.
I've been I've known you for 10 years, a lot of people here for a long, long time, but oh my goodness, I feel like a little kid that finally got onto the Little League baseball team, and it's just there's so much excitement, and I really, I've been there, I've been to film festivals, been in film, created a lot of other stuff, but this one, it's like a big, big icing on the cake, and it means a lot. First of all, I live in Arlington, and obviously you got Bart Weiss, head of the film school there, and then Yaki Smith are doing some really, really incredible film projects right off living here. And then you think about all the other people in New York and Los Angeles that grew up in Arlington or went to UTA. So yes, I'm in really, really great company. I'm excited.
James, you talked about you're not a filmmaker. You had a very great career in law enforcement, but you're not a filmmaker. You watch films on your phone, but kind of talk to us about how film has impacted you throughout your whole life. What are some of your favorite films that have really impacted you as a person, molded you as a person, not only as a person but as a husband, as a father, and a leader in the community?
Well, I go back into one of the first films that I saw, not the first film, but I go back to, I remember in the 70s, my mom would drop me off at the Hollywood Theater in Fort Worth, downtown Fort Worth, and that was in the early 1970s, and all the blaxploitation films were out, and so I go to the theater every Sunday. And one movie that I remember that really stuck out to me was Cooley High, and all the characters in Cooley High, and the message, from that film seemed to be, anyway, to no matter the obstacles, stick to your guns, do the right thing, all of those kind of messages were embedded in that film. And as a young kid, trying to figure out which way I wanted to go, I left that theater thinking the moral to that story was, stay true to yourself and always do the right thing when nobody else was even looking around, So it was about building character. I didn't know it. I didn't know that's what it was doing for me at the time, but that's what it was all about. Those things that you do when people aren't looking, doing the right thing, and so it's building your moral base, building character within you. And so, although the filmmakers may not have been intending to do that, I have no idea what they were intending to do. They were just trying to entertain, but that's what I walked away with it from. And of course, there were other films that were just strictly entertainment that I looked at. But I can remember sitting down watching Fantasia and all of the stuff that was going on with that film, and just being blown away as a kid. Just thinking about how did they do that? How did they make that happen? How do they make cartoons talk? How do they make them walk? And to kind of see some of the picture cards that they use to make those drawings move and come to life. That was just kind of interesting to me, very, very fascinating. And so I've always had I've always been a film lover, a film buff. I like watching movies. And I like all genres of movies. I think this is something that's just me watching film, being in film, or just having a connection to film has just been a part of my life since I was just a small child. I never had the aspiration to be a filmmaker, to take it to that level, but I've always enjoyed watching movies and the stories that they tell, because that's the other thing that I always think about, is that they just tell stories in a way that would not be seen or heard otherwise,
Since Cooley High was such a impact on your life, could we see it at a future film festival of yours?
I actually thought about that for real. I did. I thought about bringing it back and doing a kind of a retro night and bringing in Cooley High, and I just think that would be so cool.
Gordon Parks Jr., the son of the director of Shaft, lives in Austin, Texas.
Oh, he lives in Austin. I didn't realize he lives in Austin. Yeah, well, there you go. Might be a reason to bring him up and have him talk about the making of Cooley High. Yeah, that's a great idea. remember that. It was born right here at the round table.
We'll talk later.
Okay, all right.
So talk about some of the films that you picked this year. I mean, it's a very impressive lineup. I know you were bombarded with a lot of submissions of shorts and features and everything in between. So talk to us about some of the favorite films you picked this year and why you picked them.
Okay. One of the films that I liked was Jericho, which is our Friday night red carpet film, and it really talks about the civil rights struggle in a sarcastic, kind of comedic way, and so I was really kind of struck by the way that they told that story. It still had meaning, but they did it in a way that was very entertaining, and so you had films like that. I had some of my short films that were, one that comes to mind is Cloth Paper Dreams, which told the story of this individual on a journey in India, and I really wanted to talk about that religious journey that this individual or these individuals were on, and so I thought that was really interesting and pretty fascinating. We have another documentary, Stickmen, that tells the story of an individual who was homeless and just did wood carvings, and how those wood carvings impressed enough people that they actually made it to the White House, where it was actually presented to the president and to other world leaders. And so having an individual who lived right here in the community who didn't think, I believe just carving wood with a knife would take him that far or have that kind of impact on other individuals. And so just films like that those are the ones that kind of stick out, to me the most, that I think people will find entertaining. But you're right, there's a whole lineup of films, great films that really should be seen. And some of the foreign movies that are there, I mean, really, The Descendants, which will be screened on Saturday night, I mean, that's just an absolutely great film. And I think people would be remiss if they didn't see that one, because it tells a great story, and people should really come out and see that film, The Descendants.
What was I was very impressed with your lineup is that it basically touches every person in Arlington. Arlington's a very diverse community. You have a large South Asian population from India and Pakistan that live and attend the university. A large Asian population, African American, white. We could go on and on and on. Hispanic. So, did you have those community members in mind when you're picking those films?
It was
the thing about a film festival is you want to touch everyone in your community.
No,
you've done this.
Yeah, no, you were right. I mean, that was very intentional. We chose a diverse selection of films because, like you said, we recognize that Arlington is a very diverse community, and we wanted to have something there for everybody who lives in the city to come and enjoy. And so that was a very intentional effort, and you will always see that type of diversity in the film festivals that we have.
So George, can we talk about your film and with Tom here?
First of all, can I say, Tom, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Great. Wait, do we need to?
No, it's
I need to zoom in.
Okay, hold on just one sec.
And after we talk with Tom and George about their film, I got a follow-up question for James, an ending question.
Okay.
Okay.
all right.
George is the real star.
Yeah. Well, so is this guy right here.
Yeah. Well, who knew we would get a Tom sign?
I know.
All right, who knew?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, where do I begin? Do I begin 10 years ago with, I guess, AFI or Lone Star? Or the other one is, prior to that, I knew of Tom Syme from the Dallas Morning News doing theater. And one of my first clients that I got after I left my corporate world was Uptown Theater, and I was doing photography work for them for like 1 or 2 years, and then that got me with the Contemporary Theater Dallas, and then I'm starting to read all these theater critics, and Tom Syme keep reading this critique, and one day he gets hired with the Contemporary Theater Dallas, and then we started this long running working and personal friendship evolving after that. So I got to work on some really cool photo shoots with Tom while he was the managing director at the Contemporary Theater of Dallas. And then he finally decided he has to move on, so he wanted to move to New York and start his own production company, The Modern Stage. And it got off to a pretty good start. And Tom also wanted to be, and he is, no, I shouldn't say wanted to be, Tom is also a playwright. So he's always writing plays for submission, and he's just writing. And then one day, I get an email from him saying, hey, I want to be a singer-songwriter, and I want to do a music video. And then all of a sudden, my life just completely changed. I said, oh, wow, this is really cool. And I was really excited. And then we started this long collaboration. I think this has been at least 4 or 5 years in the making. Tom had all kinds of cool music, and I'm listening to this, and I say, yes, this is pretty good. But let me just say, Tom is a great writer. He's also a great singer-songwriter also. Now, going forward, he's also evolved where he actually brings on professional musicians to help with his arrangement. So we've all matured, but it goes back his very first music release. It was an album called Uglier Than You, and off of that there was a song called Irresistible. And I'm listening to it and say, hey, I really like this. Tom had an idea of how we're going to shoot Irresistible, and said, no, I don't think I like it this way. So I started scrubbing public domain movies and just looking where somebody that's got a heartthrob for just beautiful people and beautiful lifestyles. And then I came across Charade, and I said, wow, and it was in fact, I found it as an HD version off of YouTube because it was in public domain. And I made a music video based off of that, and it was pretty good. And another thing I'll say is, anybody listening to this, try to find a full-length version of Charade, public domain. It's out there, but only the crappy ones. Anything that's in halfway decent version has been pulled off, and it directs you to, you could watch it here, where people are actually trying to monetize this. And I would like to say Tom and my Irresistible may have made that happen.
Yeah.
But
Well, and that was 2013.
2013,
because
yes.
you were in the Dallas Video Fest.
yes,
That year with it.
yeah, and that's where I premiered. And it was a grand time for Tom Syme and Tommy Homonym. And if you ever read the backstory of who is Tommy Homonym, yeah, you'll chuckle, you'll laugh, and then say, hey, this guy's really for real. And it's actually a very good story, because in another interview I'll probably say, yes, I'm rooting for Tommy because he's a little bit like me. It's that's Tom's alter ego, and it's actually my alter ego. Through Tommy, I could start making other movies that I probably would not be able to do by myself. But
Well, can you introduce Tom and Tommy Homonym?
well, you know what? Maybe we could do that with Tom.
Or Tom, can you introduce?
Yeah.
I don't know how that works.
Yeah, can you do-
introduce me?
Well, he's my soft, quivering pink alter ego that I sort of unleashed about 5 years ago. I'd always wanted to do music, but I always had really clumsy fingers and couldn't do tried to learn the guitar and the piano, and it never quite worked out. But then they came up with these electronic things like GarageBand, where I could play virtual instruments, and that solved the problem.
Right.
So I started fooling around with it and doing covers of other people's songs, and then after doing quite a few of those, I started writing my own songs. And like George said, we had a really nice creative rapport. When we worked together at Contemporary Theater, he would do the photo shoots for our plays, and I would sort of art direct, and he would have creative ideas. And I knew we had a kind of a good way of working together. So I don't know a whole lot about the music business, and that part of it is still a little foreign to me. But I knew we had to have a video, so I called George up, and he just took the ball and ran with it. That came up with this idea for charade. You know, he took me and incorporated me into this movie with Audrey Hepburn and Cary Grant, and it was just, you know, made the colors match and everything. It was just great. So we launched a really fruitful collaboration after that, and I've continued to pursue this alter ego thing. I say of Tommy Homonym that he's on the milder, more fashionable end of the autistic spectrum. He's openly bisexual, openly imaginary, and openly ancient, which I sort of have to cop to. So it's that part of me that comes out as a different personality, and so it gives me a little cover for separating it from my playwriting career. My playwriting career is going pretty well. I've got a play under option with a commercial producer, so it's in development, and I'm hoping it gets up on the stage the next year.
Oh, wow. And George has something
Yeah,
there.
here's one more. I keep forgetting to pitch this.
But it's great that this part of me can finally find a way to thrive. I just put out a new album of, you know, nobody really gave a shit about Uglier Than You, but there was a lot of good stuff on there, and then I put out a few singles after that, and so I just put out a best of Tommy Homonym collection, greatest hits, as it were.
Oh. Well,
So that's out
George,
there on YouTube and iTunes, and I knew we needed another. I wanted another video to promote that, or was it the video that came first, and then I came up with the best of idea? I'm really not sure. But George came up with another great movie that we could exploit. It's a public domain. It's The Little Shop of Horrors from 1960. Not the musical version, but the black and white version that Roger Corman directed back in 1960. And he came up with this fabulous concept for how we could use it with one of my songs called Ride a Wave. And he just ran with it, and I flew down to Dallas and we shot some scenes, and he put them all together. And the result is this video, which I just love.
so cool. Well, George has something to add to you, Tom.
Yeah,
Sure.
I keep forgetting that this is not Tom's only film. There's actually another film making the film circuit as we speak, and it's called, doggone it. Hey Tom, what was Deborah Voris's film?
Oh yeah, it's called Catching Up.
Catching Up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that one's going around on the festival circuit. It's an adaptation of one of my one-act plays.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
Actually,
it's really cool. It's also black and white, and she did a great job. We collaborated on the screenplay. I would do a version, and she'd do a version, and we went back and forth until we had something we were both happy with. And
Very cool.
she's already planning a sequel to it, which is really exciting.
yeah, so I just wanted to pitch that Tom is actually, this is like his third or fourth film project, and two of them now making the film circuit rounds. We premiere at Frame for Frame, and then there's another film festival in Los Angeles that has accepted us, and hopefully we get some more.
Good. That's awesome.
So George, you know, you're an accomplished filmmaker. I first met you when you were shooting video for Gotti. How did this project, you know, it seems like every project you have undertaken in the last 10 years in film, you've always pushed yourself to, you know, limits that projects you've never done. So talk a little bit about how you, how this latest project here with Tom pushed you creatively. I mean, talk about going outside the box, outside your comfort level, and how you dealt with that.
Wow. Deb, thanks for asking me that, because that's really, really a grand question, and I'd have to say, oh my God, just everything, photography, filmmaking, and up to and including sound has been self-taught. The days that I was working with Gotti, your partner, actually, I was inspired by Gotti. I was inspired with what he was doing. He was doing incredible interviewing. I mean, really, really good interviewing. And say, hey, this kid is really, really good. He said, but you know what? You need to have the visuals in there. Don't make people look at the sound waves and hit the button and then hit next. I said, we could just put it all together. So I said, Gotti, let me help you with this. And that's how it started. And we got, not so much now I'm going to say about me, shooting and capturing audio. I got a few of them right. If I did 5, I'd be lucky to get 1 right, where the visual is really good, but the audio, I mean, it was horrible. I said, okay, what's wrong with this? And then had to teach myself how to capture sound. Now, Gotti would say, hey, George, this isn't bad, this is actually good. So, no, it's not good enough. And yeah, so that's, yes, I pushed the envelope. Just getting way too much atmosphere noise. I mean, just all the technical stuff. Just Gotti, I want people to hear your questions. I want a really good response to your question. So, yeah,
you're on a second career, George. I mean, you've had a
No.
celebrated career at a big company here locally,
Yeah.
and you're on a second career, and it seems like everything you've done is you've done something new. So, if you were talking to a group of older people or retirees that wanted a second career and wanted to push their boundaries, what advice would you give them? Because, like you said, everything is self-taught. You could have said, I'm through with, I could travel my whole life, or I can read, but you've been go. You've been very successful. How would you tell retirees how to push yourself, and what advice would you give?
Then, number 1, push yourself is one thing, but the other one is do not give up. Just, I've known James for several years, but a few days ago I actually got to sit down with him, and I did ask him, how did you get into film? And I actually asked him further, so tell me about it. So yes, I learned a lot, and now I'm saying, okay, what he's done, it's the same thing I'm doing. You have a dream, you have an idea, and you keep pursuing it, and you keep working on it until it gets better and better and better. And then I'm looking at the company I'm in right now. I mean, I've seen all of you guys mature. I mean, a lot of you guys were good when you started, but then I'm saying, oh my goodness, it's even better. It's even better. So, I mean, the sky's, it's really big, and it's all yours. That's all I can say. Got any questions, please come see me. I'm willing to give you all my ideas and such.
That's very generous.
Yeah.
So my last question for James, last time we met here was a year ago, and a lot has happened. And you've talked about, hinted in the roundtable today, there's a lot of diversity and a lot has happened. We don't need to, name names or name incidences, but how could law enforcement and police departments use film to bridge communities together? You've done this for a year now. There's a lot of talk about, what should police departments do to bridge the community? Should they have cookouts? Should National Night Out be every month or be more frequent? In your experience over the last year, what advice would you give to police chiefs and other law enforcement agencies to use film to bridge diversity and not diversity, but divisiveness and bridge communities?
Yeah. Well, from a law enforcement perspective, police agencies are real big in this thing called procedural justice. And procedural justice is all about valuing other people, treating them fairly, not only from a community perspective, but internally, your own people who work with you. And so, from a procedural justice training perspective, you could bring in different type of films that help tell stories of other individuals, so that a person who doesn't look like you, a person who may have a different background or grew up differently in you help the people in the room, the cops in the room, see that perspective from a different side, or see it from a way that they wouldn't have seen it just based on a lecture. Because we can sit and lecture people all day long, but if you can put it into film and tell the story, that helps it just come to life a little bit better. So I think interjecting, if they're just tidbits of film, help push the narrative, if you will, of fairness, equality, justice, and why those things are so important. One of the things from a law enforcement training perspective that we've done for a number of years, we've taken in individuals in our police academy and actually taken them over to the Holocaust Museum and explained to them how that whole movement in Germany started with individuals passing local laws, and who were those individuals that were enforcing those laws that were on the books? They were local police. And the same, you can take that same narrative and apply it to the United States when you talk about Jim Crow and Jim Crow laws. And the police officers, the police departments were the ones that were in charge of enforcing what was then law on the books. And so it speaks to a whole bigger issue, how as a society we shouldn't be tolerant of those kind of things, so we shouldn't have laws that exist that oppress people. But it also underscores the fact that the police officers were used as the tool for enforcing those laws that were oppressing people. And so, but when you put that in a film and people can see that, then they have a different perspective of how this individual who's in this other community that's different from my own may hold a different view of police than I do, because I didn't grow up in that same neighborhood. I didn't have those same life experiences, or my parents didn't have those same life experiences. And so you can kind of connect the dots, if you will, by with video or with movie or with film. It just helps bring that whole conversation to life. Like I said, you can say it, one way, but when you can actually show it to people, then that makes it real. And you guys were talking about film earlier, and I thought of another film while we were talking, a film called Alternative Math by David Matthews, who has a okay, yeah.
For a moment.
Yeah, for a moment. I mean, it's just a great film, and it's also, Dave, I guess, has a film out now with Casey Affleck, I believe, that was in the theaters. But that's another film that I would heavily push and endorse or ask people to come and see, at the festival, because it speaks to some of the things that we're talking about right now. In terms of the political climate and things that are going on, and it tells a story in a way that just really makes you go,
That's true.
So you think that more police departments should embrace film and get involved
Absolutely.
with the film community to bring it to the masses? Because, what I found is, a lot of, low-income areas don't have access to movie theaters and don't have access to film. So you're saying that this would be a good idea if the communities and the police department would bring these thought-provoking films to the community?
Yeah, absolutely. And then another way that we talk about training internally, we send people to classes, training classes. They go to academies, they go to in-service training. But one of the things that we've always talked about in law enforcement was just creating little 30-second vignettes. Because a lot of the training that actually happens in the police department happens from one officer talking to another officer. How did you do that on that call? How did you set up that perimeter? And if we just had little 30-second vignettes that we could place in briefings that talked about some of those issues, I shouldn't say issues, but just some of those things that cops wonder about when you're setting up a perimeter, or when you're approaching a house with a burglar, and you're talking to a veteran officer who talks about how I approached the house. And it's just a short talk. It's just a short 30-second talk that gets embedded in somebody's mind. That's training. That's an informal training, but it's training. And so if we could create series of vignettes like that we could push in the daily briefings and push out to the officers, that's a way to enhance their skill set, their skill level, and also to enhance the training opportunities, the real training that they get on a daily basis. And so film absolutely has a place, and in law enforcement, we kind of slow to embrace it, but we should do more to reach out and create those kind of opportunities. We're often limited by budgets because people that hold the purse strings sometimes don't see the value in creating those types of tools, but they're absolutely essential, I believe, in passing knowledge on, passing skills on to the younger officers as they try to figure out what they're going to do and how to be successful in their career.
So there's no doubt that this year's film festival is going to be successful for you and for the Arlington Film Society of the city.
We hope.
We know
It will.
My question is, most people say that, film festivals that have been around for 3 years, 4 years have made it. What are your goals after this film festival between, October 1st of this year to the next time we talk next year, beginning of September next year? What are your goals? What are you looking to do? Are you looking to expand this into schools, into the community? What are you looking at?
Yeah, expanding into schools, expanding our efforts from the festival through the colleges into the high schools and incorporating those relationships as well as those films and bringing those into the festival. Promoting the UTA Film School and the work that they do. So if through our festival we were able to establish some type of partnership or relationship where we actually mentored those kids and mentored them through UTA, and then we're able to mentor the students at UTA with George, some of the other filmmakers that exist in the Arlington community, and just kind of have that relationship, have a pathway, if you will, to help them be more successful, help them to professionalize their careers more. That would be of value. And then, of course, these things don't happen magically. They have to have money in order for it to happen. So if we could get the monetary support from the community support to embrace this, if you will, with sponsorships, I think that would go a long way with helping this thing have some life and sustain itself.
And speaking of,
What would you say to the person who's been to the other video fests locally, whether it be Lone Star, Dallas, you name it? Why should they check you out? Why would yours be so special? What makes it worth coming to?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think where we differ from them, we have more of a grassroots feel. What you're gonna see at our festival is gonna be different than you would see at DIF, because maybe the films at DIF, maybe Hollywood, but our guys, maybe they're not Hollywood, but the work is just as good. The films are just as incredible, and it's more of a grassroots, community-oriented, community-based festival than you would see maybe at some of the others that maybe aim or project to try to bring in films at a what they consider a higher quality, but again, this is more of a grassroots type of community-based feel, and so. And when I say that, I struggle with saying that, because oftentimes when you say that, people equate that with a lower quality film, and that's not the case. It's just certainly not the case. It's just that they don't have the opportunity to get their story seen. They don't get the opportunity to get the exposure to their film because they don't have $1 million budget that's going to allow them to do the marketing and all of the other things that would allow people to see their work. But it doesn't diminish the value of their work or the quality of their work. And so yeah, go ahead, George.
Okay, the other thing that you failed to mention about your festival, it's a festival. There's also a humongous portion devoted to music, and there's also an art show. And when you look at the lineup as to who's performing at Gilligan's, it's okay, you know what, like even Lone Star and Diff, maybe one night of music. It's only South by Southwest that has a humongous, in fact, they started out as a music venue and then went to film. Frame for Frame is doing music and film, and then they're also doing an art show to boot. It doesn't get any better than that.
Right, that's true.
And don't sell yourself short. I mean, this is all good stuff that you're putting together for the city of Arlington. It's an incredible opportunity for people like me. And let me just put, you say it's non-Hollywood. Well, I would beg to differ, because my film is actually a Hollywood production. Extremely low budget. Okay, extremely low budget Hollywood, but still Hollywood. And what I want to get, just in my unabashed pitch, I want to pitch this to Roger Corman, and my goal is to bring him back on to my music video and say, hey Roger, help me finish this. Just like on Michael Jackson's
Thriller?
The whole Thriller anthology where it starts with the green screen.
Uh-huh.
Oh what was the name of that? Oh, I'm having a moment. But yeah, just making it. There's more to be done on my film.
Well, we need to wrap up. So,
Okay.
is there anything, Tom, that you would like to say, or George, that you would like to say to wrap up? When is your film?
Yeah,
And we'll wrap up with you, James, unless you have something to wrap up.
I have one question for you, just a moment of levity amongst all of this.
Okay.
So, as a film fan from life, it seems like, and then you had your time as being a police officer, and now you're running a film fest. I mean, do you feel like you might have retired at the wrong time, missing the body cam era?
Certainly a lot of money to be made in that.
Little early camera work, dolly in,
Dolly out.
That's
Well,
a good one.
Yeah, you know, and the body worn cam conversation is a whole nother conversation. But there's certainly a vast amount of money to be made in that market, and people are really seeking to do things in that market.
Kelly, I have one more quick question.
Okay.
Something we have not talked about. You talk about community partnerships and stuff. Because you touched a little bit about Studio Movie Girl. They've been with you since year one. They've been a big supporter of yours, and kind of talk to us about how they've been working with you and what it's like to work for them.
Well, Studio Movie Grill has been great. I mean, they've been absolutely fantastic. They've opened the doors in ways that I didn't anticipate. They have allowed us to display posters and really just about do anything that we want to do at the movie theater in support of the festival. One of the things that they mentioned last year, that they did not have as many attendees in their theater on weekends, and we really brought a lot of revenue. We brought people into their theater, and that's great to be able to do that for a local business or business in Arlington, is to help them with their dollars. And so that was huge for me, and it's something that we would like to see continue, not only through the film, but as George says, in the music pieces and in the art show. If we can kind of create that synergy in those local establishments where the music is playing, I mean, that's wonderful.
Speaking of business, why should filmmakers come film in Arlington?
Because I think in Arlington we cater to the filmmaker, and I think we try to make the filmmakers and we make the actors, we want to make them feel special at our festival, and we try to cater to them in a way that I think some of the other festivals, do not, by giving them opportunities to talk about their work in front of a camera and creating video, pieces of video that we can push back to them, that they can use for their own publicity or marketing efforts or whatever that they want to do. So we really try to make it about the filmmaker and entertain the audience. But if you're a filmmaker, we want you to be attracted in, because there's something that you're going to get from participating in this festival, and it's going to really be all about you.
And after they participate in your festival, should they come back to the city of Arlington to film their next project in Arlington?
Well, we have a lot of great scenes. We have a lot of great places, locations, I guess, if you will, that people can film in Arlington. They often get overlooked, but we do have individuals in the city of Arlington who currently work at supplying location film to Hollywood studios. And one of the unique things that they say that exist about Arlington, we don't have public transportation. And so when they go out and do these scenes in the communities, they don't have to worry about the big buses rolling by, the noise and all of that. And so they really like filming in the neighborhoods and in the communities because they don't have that distraction. And Arlington has some uniqueness about it that makes, from a photogenic purpose, I guess, a perspective, that makes Arlington, kind of unique. So we have, when you think Arlington, you think Cowboys, Texas Rangers, Six Flags, and those things are there, and they're great visuals. But we also have other things within the city that are great visuals as well that people should take advantage of.
Five Flags.
Five Flags. Well, they're all American flags now. It's still Six Flags, but they're all United States flags.
Oh, goodness.
That was good.
So George, when is yours and Tommy's?
Okay, Tommy and my film will be Saturday, 5 p.m. on the 5 p.m. block. So please come out and check out a really, really great music video. And I mean, Tom's lyrics it's just awesome. That's all I can say. He's a really good singer-songwriter.
What's next for you, George? What are you working on next?
Probably more just commercial type of work for corporate clients. Oh, and then
So in other words, the rent, shit.
I'll just say to satisfy my theater, going back to UNT, and I'm working on their theater projects. I'm their production photographer.
Oh, awesome.
What about you, Tom? What's next for you?
Well, like I said, I've got that play in development with the commercial producer. I'm also hoping to write some songs for other people to interpret. I'd like to do some piano arrangements and present my work to some cabaret singers to see if I can get my songwriting on that circuit.
Cool.
Got some new material that I think would work really well in that medium.
And Tom, you're coming in town, right?
I am. I'm coming down next week. I love Arlington, and I'm delighted to have been chosen for this, so I didn't want to miss it.
When are you coming? When will you
I'm
be
coming
here?
down on Thursday night.
Okay, good. Okay, James, can you wrap us up? Tell us where people can buy tickets, how much they are, passes,
Sure, they can buy tickets. Go to frameforframe.org.
and it's frame 4, the number 4.
frame.org. Click tickets, and it'll take you right to the link to purchase tickets. Festival pass is $50. A day pass is $25, or you can come to an individual show for $10. But we highly encourage the festival pass at $50. You get to see everything.
It's a great deal.
It's a great deal. It's a great
Yeah.
deal. We feel like we gave a great value, for what they're going to get.
And it starts when?
It starts Friday at 7 o'clock at the Studio Movie Grill at Lincoln Square. And if you come earlier, if you come at 6 o'clock, 6:30, you'll see the red carpet event. We're going to have a red carpet, and we're going to have our own version of Ryan Seacrest that's going to be interviewing the actors and actresses as they come across the red carpet. And we're going to really try to glitz it up, for them because I think that they deserve it.
And what's that date?
Friday, September 22nd.